Hey love, welcome to The Growth Blueprint. I'm Shae, your intentional growth guide, and if you're here, it means you're ready to build your creator life with more peace, purpose, and a whole lot less pressure. Around here, we don't chase hustle, we build habits. We don't copy trends, we craft alignment. And we don't talk at each other, we walk with each other. Every episode will break down one layer of your growth, from mindset and systems to storytelling and sustainable strategy, all through the lens of authentic, mindful marketing. Because real growth, it's not just about doing more, it's about becoming more you. So grab your coffee, your notes app, or that messy journal that's seen it all, and let's build your growth blueprint together. Right here, right now, with intention. Hey love. I know, things sound a little different today. The name, the music, even the rhythm of this space. But if you've been here for a while, the last 7 episodes, you already know I don't believe in change for aesthetics. I believe in evolution with purpose. For months now, Intentional by Shae has been our corner of the internet to slow down and breathe. We've talked about storytelling, burnout, brand voice, and all the beautiful messy parts of being a small creator trying to make impact without losing ourselves. And honestly, those conversations changed me too. Somewhere between recording episode after episode and watching myself practice what I preached, I felt a quiet tug. That whisper that says, you've learned what intention feels like. Now it's time to build what comes next. So today, we begin again. Welcome to Intentional by Shae, The Growth Blueprint. This isn't a reset, it's a rebuild. Everything we've learned still matters, but now we're laying the foundation of something that can hold it. Okay? So let's take a deep breath and let's build together. Now, I wish I could tell you that growth announced itself with a neon sign. Something clear like, you've officially evolved. Yay! Congratulations. But no. Growth shows up disguised as discomfort. As much discomfort as it's given me recording this episode. For me, it looked like opening my laptop one morning and realizing that I wasn't excited to record. I still cared. I still loved you all. This space, this work, I still loved it a lot. But it felt like wearing a coat that just no longer fit, if you know what I mean. It's not bad, just smaller than before. I call that feeling the hallway. It's that in-between where one door has quietly closed behind you and another one hasn't quite opened yet. You start pacing. You start tweaking your brand color palettes. You start rereading your mission statement like, girl, what am I even doing right now? And the algorithms, no help. It's out here yelling, consistency or die, while your soul is whispering, alignment or bust. So I paused. I sat with it, and the longer I sat, the clearer it became. Intention was the spark, but growth is the structure. Intention taught us how to see ourselves clearly. Growth teaches us how to build from that clarity. And that's how the growth blueprint was born. Not from strategy, but from surrender. From admitting I was done performing peace and ready to practice it. So I start asking myself, what would my business look like if I built it around the person I'm becoming, not the version of me that's still trying to prove something? That question wrecked me in the best way. It stripped away the perfectionism, the metrics, the noise. It made space for something real, a blueprint that actually fits you. And here's the thing, love. You're probably feeling your own shifts too. Maybe your content doesn't feel like you anymore. Maybe your systems are holding together with a prayer and a sticky note. Or maybe you're realizing that chasing visibility doesn't mean you're being seen. Wherever you are, it's okay to outgrow what once worked. You're allowed to shed the strategies that kept you busy but not fulfilled. You're allowed to make room for peace, even if it slows your metrics for a minute. Because that space, that pause, that's where you start designing your next chapter. So before we go further, I want you to ask yourself something. And if you get a journal, write this down. What part of my creator life is quietly asking for something new? Don't overthink it. It might whisper. It might shout. But listen to it. That's your invitation. Because the shift, the first part of the blueprint, isn't about adding more. It's about getting honest enough to stop doing what no longer feels aligned. We're building from honesty, not hustle. From alignment, not approval. From you and not algorithms. And when you start there, the blueprint builds itself. All right, love. Now, let's pause for today's build out. Next, we'll step into section 2, the blueprint, where we actually break down the framework, the mindset, systems, storytelling, and strategy, and how they stack into sustainable, soul-aligned growth. Ready? Let's start with pillar 1, the mindset. Now, once I understood that growth needed a structure, the next question was obvious, duh. What does that structure actually look like? I'll be honest. When I first thought about building a blueprint, I assumed it meant spreadsheets, content calendars, notebook pages of things to keep me organized, color-coded Notion setups that made me feel like I had my life together. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Turns out, the first thing I had to build wasn't a system at all. It was a belief. Because here's the thing about growth. You can't build a strategy on top of self-doubt and expect it to stand. You can download every planner, schedule every post, and optimize every workflow. But if you don't believe your story is worth building on, you'll keep tearing down your progress before it ever gets to grow roots. That realization hurt a little. I'm not going to lie. Because I had been calling it perfectionism when it was really fear of being seen. I had been calling it refining my brand or rebuilding my brand when it was really avoiding risk. Mindset isn't just positive thinking. It's the quiet reprogramming that happens when you stop asking, am I good enough? And start asking, what if I just give myself permission? What if I give myself a chance to build like I already am? There's this thing we do as creators. We shrink our voice down to fit into what we think people will accept. We call it niche clarity. But sometimes it's actually fear of rejection in a nice Canva template. We call it consistency, but it's actually approval chasing, wearing productivity's hoodie. The truth, your mindset is your first system. It's what decides whether you'll keep showing up when the views flatline, when the launch flops, when the reel that took 3 hours gets 12 likes. If your mindset isn't stable, you'll rebuild your brand every time your analytics dip, and that's how burnout wins. Ask me how I know. When I finally stopped trying to earn my worth and started creating from it, everything changed. My work stopped sounding like a pitch and started sounding more like me. I started caring less about being the loudest and more about being the most aligned. And ironically, that's when people started listening. Because authenticity is magnetic, not because it's trendy, but because it's rare. So if you're listening to this right now, here's your first prompt. I want you to write this down if you can. Please ask yourself this question. What story am I telling myself about who I need to be in order to grow? Be honest. That question cracked me open the first time I answered it. And it's because I realized I was still trying to be the version of me that people would take seriously, instead of the version that actually feels like home. And home is where real growth happens. Your mindset doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be honest. The goal isn't confidence all the time. It's clarity in the middle of uncertainty. It's saying, I don't know how this next season will unfold, but I trust myself enough to build it anyway. That's the foundation of the blueprint. Not the tools, not the tech, not the templates. Just you deciding to believe that what you're building matters, even if no one claps yet. Because when your mindset is rooted in trust instead of comparison, your growth starts to feel like peace instead of pressure. Here's your second prompt. I want you to ask yourself, where am I still building from fear? And what would building from faith look like instead? I want you to take your time with that one. Because the truth is, we can't blueprint the next chapter until we stop doubting the author. And you, love, are the author of this story. Now that's our first pillar, mindset. Now we're going to get into pillar number 2, systems, structure with soul. And that's where we turn the belief you've built here into something sustainable you can actually work with. You know how everyone says, do the work, like it's a motivational poster? They forget to mention that sometimes the work feels like staring at a blank Google Doc, wondering who you think you are to be doing any of this. Yeah, that's the part nobody glamorizes. Because doing the work isn't just doing. It's feeling the resistance and still showing up. Not perfectly, but presently. When I first started rebuilding this blueprint, I thought the hard part would be setting up the systems, creating the strategy, and getting the visuals right and on point. But it turns out the hardest part was believing I could hold what I was asking for. Doing the work meant sitting in silence long enough to face the fear of being seen again. It meant writing old stories that said, you're too much or not enough. It meant unlearning my addiction to being productive just to feel worthy. The work looks quiet sometimes. It's not always brand shoots and launches. It's the 10 p.m. journal entries where you tell yourself the truth. It's closing Instagram for a week because your creativity needs air. It's finally taking your own advice. That's why this section isn't about hustling harder. It's about staying human in the middle of the build. 1. The work of showing up when it's boring. Nobody tells you that growth will start to feel routine. There's no fireworks in the discipline stage, just repetition, consistency, and faith that what you're planting will eventually grow. There are mornings I open my planner, stare at my to-do list, and want to crawl back into bed. That's most of us, right? But then I remember, this is what growth looks like in real time. Not the before and after, but the during. And that during is sacred. That's where you prove to yourself that your commitment isn't conditional on convenience. So if you're in that phase right now, love, keep watering the thing. Even when it feels small, even when it's quiet. The results may not show yet, but the roots are forming. I want you to ask yourself, where am I being asked to stay consistent, not perfect? 2, the work of rest. Now, this one sounds like an oxymoron, right? Work and rest. But rest is work when your worth has been tied to your output. I had to learn that rest isn't what you earn after you prove yourself. It's what you protect so you can sustain yourself. Rest resets the signal so that your creativity doesn't start echoing everyone else's voice. It's your brain's way of saying, let me breathe so I can make something original again. The most strategic thing I ever did for my business and for myself is start sleeping. No joke. When I stopped glamorizing burnout and started romanticizing balance, my ideas got better, my launches got cleaner, my audience connection deepened. Turns out, people can feel when your energy is coming from overflow instead of survival mode. So yes, take that nap, okay? Close the laptop and go touch some grass. The algorithm will still be there when you wake up. 3, the work of self-trust. At some point, every creator has to stop researching and start relying on their own instincts. And that's terrifying because trusting yourself means you might fail flat on your face in public. It means posting the idea that feels risky. It means launching before you actually feel ready. But here's the truth. Self-trust isn't built by certainty. It's built by evidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you collect proof that you can be trusted by you. That's why I call self-trust a practice, not a personality trait. You don't have it or lack it. You build it through repetition. So if you've been waiting for validation before you move, consider this your permission slip. Your evidence begins when you do. I want you to reflect on this for a moment. What's one small promise I can keep to myself this week that proves I'm reliable to my own vision? 4, the work of letting it be messy. Now, this one's personal because perfection was my comfort zone. As long as I was fixing everything, I didn't have to risk failing. But when you commit to intentional growth, you also commit to imperfection because the blueprint will evolve as you build. Some posts will flop, some launches will fall flat, some collaborations will feel off, and none of it means you're off path. Messy progress is still progress. Every draft that didn't land still trained your voice. Every pivot taught you to listen. Growth is feedback, not failure. If it looks too perfect, you probably stopped growing. So here's one more thing I want you to look at before we move to the next section. What's one area of my growth I've been trying to perfect instead of practice? All right, love. That's the hard work, the emotional side of building. Next, we move into the practical side. Habits, creative workflows, content structure, and how to keep that fire lit without burning out. That's where we make the mindset move. Now that we've faced the inner work, let's talk about what it looks like when it hits daylight. Growth doesn't just live in journals. It lives in the little habits that build momentum while nobody's watching. 1. The rhythm of real work. If you're anything like me, your to-do list used to look like a personal attack. Now I build rhythm instead of pressure. There are push days, and then there are pause days. Push days are when you ride the creative wave. You batch, you build, you move. Now pause days are for review, rest, and recalibration. When you start honoring both, you stop treating your energy like a machine and start treating it like a tide. The tide doesn't rush, it returns. So try this. Block 1 hour a week called the reset hour. No tasks, no emails, just step back and ask, is what I'm doing still working? That 1 hour will save you 10 in burnout recovery later. 2. Habits that hold you. Now, we love a new planner season, but habits are what hold the vision when motivation leaves the chat. Your habits should make you feel safe, not trapped. Here are a few of my favorites. Having a prep routine before creating. So having my coffee, playlist, candle, pray before I begin recording or creating. Do whatever grounds you, because that is what grounds me. A 10-minute digital tidy up, a clean desktop clears the brain. And a daily finish line moment. Turn off the light, close the laptop, and physically signal that work is done. Tiny habits or routines tell your nervous system that you're allowed to stop performing and start existing again. Because sustained success isn't built on adrenaline. It's built on awareness. 3. Creating without losing yourself. Somewhere between trends and templates, we forget that content is communication. Every post is an invitation to conversation, not a performance for validation. So when you plan your week, I want you to ask yourself, what do I actually want to say? Not what will perform well. Here's a little practical balance I use. 1 heart post for connection, 1 help post for education, and 1 human post behind the scenes and showing what real life is for you. That's it. 3 anchors that keep your message honest and your energy grounded. When in doubt, just tell the truth. That's the most timeless strategy you'll ever have. 4. Collaboration as a growth tool. Now let's be real. Working alone all the time can make you forget how expansive collaboration feels. Collaboration doesn't have to mean big brand deals. It can be cross-posting with a peer, swapping a guest story, or just cheering someone on publicly. When you help amplify others, you multiply trust for the both of you. The key? Partner with people who align with your pace, not just your niche. If their energy feels chaotic, you'll absorb it. If their purpose feels clear, you'll elevate each other. Community is the ultimate growth hack. 5. When to pivot and when to push. This is the hardest part of the work. Knowing the difference between resistance that's a sign to pivot and resistance that's just fear dressed up in logic. I want you to ask yourself, does this challenge drain me or stretch me? If it drains you consistently, it's a sign to make a pivot. If it stretches you, makes you nervous but alive, that's a sign to push through. Learning that difference is emotional intelligence for creators. It's how you stay expanding without exploding. 6. The energy audit. Every season, I try to do an energy audit. It's simple and it looks a little like this. I ask myself, what gave me energy this month? What drained it? What did I avoid that actually mattered? And what did I chase that didn't? Then I rebuild my schedule accordingly. That's how you turn intuition into implementation. You stop copying other people's blueprints and start refining your own. Because the best business plan is still self-awareness with a Google Sheet. 7. The celebration clause. Now listen, if you're doing all this work and not celebrating, you're missing half the magic. Celebration keeps your spirit in the room. So yes, we track analytics, but we also track joy. We celebrate the email replies that made you tear up. The one DM that said, I needed this. The fact that you kept going when you didn't want to. That's growth too. Write those wins down. Build a proof folder. Every time imposter syndrome knocks, open it. Remind yourself of your receipts. Because joy isn't optional. It's a strategic resource. Now, this is the work. The visible and invisible. The habit and the heart. Mindset built belief. Systems built balance. Storytelling built belonging. And strategy built direction. And the work, the daily choice to keep showing up, builds momentum. Growth isn't a lightning strike. It's a pulse. It keeps beating as long as you keep breathing through it. So wherever you are, take this as your reminder. You don't have to build fast. You just have to build faithfully. You've already got the blueprint. Now it's time to move. Let's go build your next chapter. Woo! That was a good one. Remember, love, growth doesn't have to be loud to be real. The smaller shifts, they add up. The quiet seasons, they're building something too. If this episode spoke to you, share it with another creator who's walking their own growth journey. Because that's how we build, not alone, but together. And if you want to keep growing with intention, make sure you're part of the Mindful Growth Letter, my bi-weekly love notes for small creators who want to scale without losing their soul. You can join at intentionalbyshae.com/the Mindful Growth Letter. Until next time, protect your peace, trust your pace, and remember, you already have what it takes to grow. You're just building your blueprint to get there. This is Intentional by Shae, the Growth Blueprint. See you in the next episode.